Hello everyone and welcome back to the Bantamweight Boxing YouTube channel. I hope you're all well and having a good Sunday or had a nice weekend. I've had quite a chilled one myself. So just thought I'd stick on some boxing and do some videos. So in this video right now, I've got the highlights for Jake Paul versus Anderson Silva cleverly on my laptop down here. So I'm going to click play on that. I think the video is about 8 minutes or so, and just give you my live reaction to the fight. I haven't seen the fight, obviously. I do know the result, so I think that will sway kind of how I view it a little bit. But I think it'll be interesting to see my kind of instant reaction to this mega fight. So let's see. So fight kicks off between the two, 8 rounds. You know, that's quite a long fight, you know, especially for Anderson Silva, who is, I believe, 46 years old. So, yeah, good on you, Jake Paul, getting in there with a granddad. But let's see how this goes. So first round, Jake Paul, clearly the aggressor, really going for it, actually sitting down quite a lot on the punches, really throwing with intent to kind of hurt. Anderson Silva, definitely for him, a bit of a feeling out round. Not really any punches kind of coming from him. Just saw one nice left hand, and yeah, that's pretty much it. So first round, from what I can see, it's a lot to take in a short amount of time, but Jake Paul clearly has come with a game plan of working the body, quite a few jabs to the body, which I like that. I think that's smart from him and his team. Obviously, if you're fighting someone who's nearly 50, they're going to be vulnerable to the body, and it is going to tire them. So smart move from Jake Paul there. Did look also quite dangerous, really putting everything on it, you know, everything on those kind of right hands. You know, a bit worrying there. You're like, might want to kind of conserve the energy a little bit. But then Silva, on the other hand, for him, didn't really throw anything, really just feeling out Jake Paul. So interesting strategy from him there. But I've heard, I don't know a lot about Anderson Silva. I've not followed the UFC, especially in the past. I follow a little bit now, but I have heard that that's kind of his style. He likes to take it slow in the early rounds and then kind of turn it on. So now coming into the second round, yeah, completely different fight or looks like a completely different fight to Anderson Silva. He's really brought the action, throwing quite wildly here, really backing up Jake Paul. Jake Paul looks slightly uncomfortable on the ropes, doesn't look particularly natural. But Anderson Silva getting himself in the right positions, you know, putting on the pressure, but it doesn't seem he's really landing the shots when he's got Jake Paul in trouble. He's come out aggressive, which is exciting to see. I respect it. And then Jake Paul has kind of, shielded himself up. But when he's on the ropes, Anderson Silva still seems a little bit tentative to throw those punches, and the right shots don't seem to be coming out. But still, completely different start to the round from Anderson Silva, and a nice little bit of showboating. We can see he's standing in front of Jake Paul, dodging a few of his jabs. So that's exciting to see. But yeah, good round from Anderson Silva here. Really the first kind of time and I've seen it before Jake Paul, but one of the first times really I've seen Jake Paul and he looks uncomfortable. Seems to be Anderson Silva really wants to be in this kind of close to mid-range. When they're a bit further apart, fighting at longer range, it seems Jake Paul is actually looking a bit better than Anderson Silva, which I'm kind of shocked about, because I thought Anderson Silva would be... I've seen him fight before. I know he's a good counter puncher, so I thought he was going to fight from range and and time his shots. But it seems actually he looks better when he's aggressing and fighting at quite close range. So I'd say first round's Jake Paul, second round to Anderson Silva. Coming into the third round, Jake Paul seems like he's kind of. I think he was quite shocked in that second round. I think it kind of took him by surprise. I think that was probably part of Anderson Silva's game plan of going slow the first round and then second round just coming in and full throttle, which I know Anderson Silva is known for his kind of mind games and stuff like that. So definitely caught Jake Paul off guard. This third round, Jake Paul seems a little bit more comfortable. He's kind of realised, okay, this is the pace we're fighting at. I'm ready for it. He's moving off the ropes a lot quicker than he was in the second round. He's getting caught now and then, but he's throwing some good shots himself. Yeah, that kind of, at that kind of longer range, Jake Paul is throwing some mean shots and landing pretty easily. Again, Jake Paul's got this consistent jab. Anderson Silva seems a bit more hesitant to throw the jab. So at the longer range, I think Jake's having a lot more success. But yeah, good third round. Stuff showing from both of them, but I think Jake Paul's probably nicked that one. I think he's composed himself after that second round onslaught from Anderson Silva, and kind of regained composure and looked good in that third round. Yeah, some big shots. I'm just seeing the highlights there. Jake Paul's almost throwing. Oh God, I like whistled in my voice there. Jake Paul's almost throwing from quite a long distance. His power shots, and Anderson Silva's reactions just don't seem to really be there. It's almost as though Jake Paul doesn't really need to set up his power shots. He's swinging from a long way away, big overhand rights, and Anderson Silva's just eating them. I'm sure Silva in the past, 10 years ago or so, would have slipped that pretty easily, and I think many other fighters probably would. But I just don't think Silva at this age has really got the reaction time or the reactions to kind of deal with these shots. So, but it's working for Jake Paul, so he's going to continue to do it. Anyway, what round are we in now? We're in the fourth round. So let's just clarify. I think first round to Jake Paul, second to Anderson Silva, and I'll give the third to Jake Paul again. So fourth round seems to have slowed down quite a bit. Jake Paul boxing quite smart. I think that's what I've been quite impressed with Jake Paul, actually. He seems, his IQ as a boxer is actually quite impressive. When it's a slow round and he's getting his breath back, he's doing well to flick the jab out there, not doing Silva any serious harm, but he's just ticking over and making sure he wins that round. Also, a few times when Silva has really brought the onslaught on and come at him very aggressively, Jake Paul's been very quick to tie up, slow it all down. And, Anderson Silva's been complaining a few times about it being wrapped up, but that's the sport, that's the game. And fair play to Jake Paul. His IQ has impressed me, actually, for someone who's been boxing for a matter of years. But yeah, this round, leaning to Jake, again, flicking the jab out, still working the body, which is going to have its effects, I suspect, in the later rounds. Again, a few flurries from Jake Paul. Anderson Silva hasn't really been able to get in too close this round. He's been kept at distance, and as I've said throughout the video, that's where Jake Paul's looked his best. Yeah, very much a slow round, not too much happening. I think both of them probably getting their breath back, but it does look like this round is going for Jake Paul. Yeah, just at the end of the round there, when Anderson Silva gets Jake Paul on the ropes, the uppercuts do land, and it does seem to be where Jake Paul looks the most vulnerable, when it's up close. I think a lot of his fights he's been able to keep the distance on the opponent, so we haven't actually really seen him box up close, but it doesn't seem like something which comes naturally to him. And Anderson Silva's been able to slip in a few shots. I think also as well, at the long range, Anderson Silva is a bit slower. You can see his hand speed is not there. So I think Jake Paul can see the punches coming and is able to slip them. But when they're up close, Anderson Silva's got that experience to use his body weight, control. It's physical control, isn't it, when you're up close? And he's able to do that, but also sneak in a few of those punches which Jake Paul's not seeing. So, but again, we saw a little bit of that at the end, but I'd still say that round was for Jake. So I think I've got it 3-1 to Jake so far. So really starting to kind of move away here. Jake, Anderson Silva's still very much still in the fight. I don't think Jake has really hurt him at any point. But he's just doing a bit more work. Yeah, it seems like Anderson Silva can keep with the pace. It doesn't seem like he's overwhelmed by the pace. I don't know if that's just because he's very good at kind of disguising being in trouble or whatever. Some fighters are good at that, so maybe that. But I think the issue for Anderson Silva is just the punch output. It's just not really that much coming out on his side. And in fairness to him, it's probably a smart move. He's probably thinking, look, this is an 8-round fight. I need to stay in for the 8 rounds. I'm going to punch. I'm only going to throw when I think I'm going to land. And his punch to land ratio, I haven't got the stats here, but it seems quite good. But he's just getting outworked by Jake Paul, especially with the jabs. There's just not enough there. Can see in this 5th round, Anderson Silva really covering up in the body section. I think he's been hit a few times there, but yeah, a bit better from Anderson Silva. He's got, again, when he backs Jake up, looks strong. Bit of a messy round, this one. I think this possibly go to Silva, actually. A few flurries of punches from Silva, landing fairly clean. Jake Paul looks like he needs to get his breath back a little bit. Yeah, but it's impressive from Anderson Silva. Good work. Every punch he's throwing is pretty much landing. Jake Paul probably needs to clinch a little bit and get off the ropes. But yeah, very good round from Anderson Silva. Kind of come out of nowhere. Just had a bit of success on the inside. It looks like Jake was kind of taking a bit of a round off, getting his breath back. He looks pretty shattered in this. I think he's really being pushed in this fight. So coming into the 6th round, so far I think I've got it 3-2 to Jake Paul. So it's tight. It's tight. 8 rounds is a long fight. We're used to seeing these boxers fight some of these DAZN cards and all that. They're like 4 rounds or something like that. But 8 rounds, it then becomes a lot about your fight management. Are you going to give up a few early rounds and stay in the fight, come hard late? You've got to think there's a lot more about game plans as you go into the later rounds. And I'm sure Jake usually wins by a knockout, so I'm not sure how late he's really gone in many fights. So good experience for him. 6th round, good little flurry of punches from Jake there. He's just kind of controlling this round. It still looks like they're both taking a bit of a breather. I think Anderson Silva really went for it last round. Jake needs to kind of get off the ropes. As soon as he gets onto the ropes, he does struggle. He is fighting back on the ropes now, but he just looks vulnerable. It's the only time in the fight where he does look vulnerable. He kind of bends his head down and just kind of throws and prays. But Anderson Silva was catching him a few times there. So I think that was a hard one to score, the 6th round. There was a little flurry there. They're just showing the highlights from Jake, who landed a 3-punch combination at that kind of mid-range. It looked very nice. But then also Silva came back and hit him a few times himself. So where are we at then in scores? I'm a bit lost myself. I think we were saying... I could say it's 3-3 really. I'd probably... Yeah, it's probably one of those where it's a draw really. So you're kind of... it's a point for both of them. But I'll say 3-3 just for the kind of excitement of it. Not that I'm a judge or anything. Not that matters what I think. Okay, 7th round. Jake Paul's come out strong. They're really throwing both of them. It looks like both of them looking for that knockout. Jake just landed a good shot there. But again, Anderson Silva's throwing back. I'm very impressed with his stamina. I thought he was going to tire Silva, and I thought the body shots early would have more of an impact. But Jake Paul's still getting to the body, but Silva's just coming back. Very impressed at his age to meet him with this pace. The round just ended again. It's hard to score. I'd say that one again it's very tight. I'd say it's probably a draw again. I would say going into this 8th round, I'd probably say going into this 8th round, I'd have Jake Paul maybe up by a round or so. I'd say Jake Paul is still winning, but the last couple of rounds, Anderson Silva has brought it on. So this 8th round is very important. I thought it was going to be quite a coasting victory for Jake Paul, but really I would say, oh, and there's the knockdown. Oh, what a shot. What a shot. He's just caught, you can tell it's just one of those shots where Silva's just not ready for it at all. Just kind of come out of nowhere. Great, I think it's a right hook, isn't it? It's a great shot. It's not, it's one of those as well. It's not Jake Paul's strongest shot by any means. He's thrown way harder punches throughout the fight. It's just he comes with a left hook and then short right hook. Anderson Silva doesn't see it. He's obviously tired in the 8th round. He looks pretty beaten as well, and it's a great shot. But he gets up. His nose is busted, but he gets up. But that is very important for Jake Paul. I didn't realise when I saw the result, I saw Jake Paul had won the fight. I thought Jake probably coasted it, for most of the fight, and then, got a nice knockdown to end it. But I didn't realise how important that knockdown actually was. That really kind of, it was needed. It was needed. I think Jake Paul would have still won it just for his kind of name, and also I think he did just outwork Silva just a tad. But that knockdown was needed to make it a clear victory for Jake Paul. It's a fair play to Anderson Silva. Fair play to Jake Paul. I'm not sure really what the kind of general feedback is or reaction to this fight is. I'm sure Jake Paul's getting a lot of slander for fighting a 47-year-old. It's not the most impressive thing to do, but Anderson Silva is one of the greatest fighters of all time. And for Jake Paul, it's clearly, it's a fight which is at his level. He was clearly tested in that fight. So I think what my point would be is he's not going in there and fighting, tomato cans and knocking them out in 2 rounds. He's testing himself. He's putting himself in there with someone who is going to give him trouble. And Jake Paul had to fight and, had to really dig deep and fight for that win. And needed that knockdown. So I'd give it to Jake just by the skin of his teeth, really. But I quite like that fight. I think it was a good one. Anderson Silva is a bit of an enigma, kind of be quiet at certain points and then bring it on at others. But we learned a few things from that. We learned Jake Paul has got a lot of power. He can bang. We've learned, and he carries that power late, which is very important. I think we've learned Anderson Silva is, well, we already knew he was a world-class fighter, but still, the fact he can do that at that age is just incredibly impressive. But also the other kind of weakness I think we've seen of Jake Paul is fighting on the inside is not his strongest point. But fair play to him. He dug deep, got the win. Let me know what your thoughts on the fight were. And yeah, drop a like and a comment. Thanks for listening. Bye-bye.